Oh, this is cool!
Hello, just here to say, no hate to the original creator. Today we are reacting to a little bit of a guy named Arch. My understanding he used to be called Arch Warhammer, and then he got that taken away because of GW. Famously, not very kind with people using anything related to Warhammer, even if it's not, like Gears of War having the chainsaw and the lancer. Irregardless, that has nothing to do with this. We watched a little bit of his My Little Pony video, which was kind of out of nowhere, but also we listened and watched a video of his about why the Imperium of Mankind in 40K, the big ones, is not fascist, according to him. And all of his points, which basically amount to here's something the real fascists have done in the past, here's something the Imperium did that was similar, but they're not the same. Trust me, bro. Again, I just feel like I have to put this out here. No hate to the original creator. I mean, not that we could really drum up that much of a storm, but irregardless, none to him whatsoever. If you like this and you want more, leave a comment down below. Come join our Discord in the description. Come tune in for the streams. And with that out of the way, enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, friends. It is time.
Greetings and
once again for the
salutations.
annual I did far too much research for this My Little Pony lore video, Theory Crafting Edition. As today, we are going to ask the seemingly, at first blush, absurd question, is Princess Celestia evil? Princess Celestia is
that an AI-generated image?
kind and beneficent ruler of Equestria, the alicorn that makes the sun rise.
Why are you putting this much effort into a My Little Pony video? That is fucking insane. He sounds like the most insufferable British person of all time.
He does. That's horrible.
The Imperium of Man
This is a 4-year-old video.
Fascist.
Okay.
Oh. What? Okay, can you roll it back?
The Imperium of Man is not fascist.
15 seconds in.
Where does he go from here? Where do you even go from here?
So the dictionary, his fandom is trash. That tends to be. We've seen Synthetic Man. The textbook definition of fascism: far right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist political ideology characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy, and subordination of individual interests. So it's full of unironic pedophilic people. That doesn't surprise me. So all 6 of these first traits the Imperium has in spades.
That is.
So
That is.
hold on.
That is.
Characterized. So let's go through this. Dictatorial leader. They unironically pray to a dude who calls himself the Emperor of Mankind. Centralized autocracy. Yeah, they have a centralized system that kind of just goes up and up and up. There is no real free will. You kind of do what the people ahead of you say. Militarism. That should be self-explanatory. Everything that the Imperium does is for warfare. There's not a single thing they do that isn't for warfare. There's pleasure planets or whatever, I guess, but that is 1% of the. Well, yeah, it's 1% of the entire massive population. Probably less than 1%. Probably 0.001% of the population. The rest of it is militaristic. Forcible suppression of opposition. If you don't believe in the God Emperor or the creeds of the Imperium, you're a heretic and you're executed on the spot. There is no if, ands, or buts. If you don't believe in what they believe, you're executed. That's it. Full stop.
That's
Belief
awesome.
in a natural social hierarchy. So they believe in the God Emperor as a god, and that his sons are his, demigods, and that the Space Marines are his angels. Tell me if that sounds like a natural social hierarchy. They believe that certain people are perceived as like literal fucking gods or mythical
That's so
creatures.
true. That sounds like a normal society to me.
I guess you could say it's not one power because you have the AdMech and stuff. It's made up of multiple branches. That doesn't make it not fascist. That just means that it's a complex fascist regime. Like, what are you talking about?
This body, via a process of discussions, deliberations, and voting, that determines the course of the Imperium.
Vaspals, yeah. So it's not a dictatorship because they don't have one ruler. They have 12. So, I hate to break it to you, but that's not democracy. Like, it's kind of, I guess you can call it democratic between these 12 people, but these 12 people aren't even in charge. If Gilliman wanted to, he could walk in, kill all of them, which he did do. When he came back, he killed half of them and replaced them with better people. So I would consider that as Gilliman in charge of that dictatorship for now. He just hasn't fully adopted the title. And before the Emperor went down, he was the one dude. Like, there were not 12 Lords of Terra. It was just the Emperor. Like, how is that not a blatant dictatorship? You're just lying. Oh, hold on. A dictatorship is an autocratic form of government which is characterized by a leader or a group of leaders who hold governmental powers with few to no limitations. So a group of leaders with no limitations, which is exactly what the high rulers of Terra are, because if you disagree with them, they will just kill you or defund you. That's a dictatorship. Just because it's a council doesn't mean it's not a dictatorship.
This consists of tens of thousands of representatives and dignitaries from across imperial space.
They have representatives. That doesn't mean the representatives have power. They're still told what to do and where to go and where to do it. Like, it's more for show.
But this body is no longer in widespread usage. It used to be one of the primary governing bodies of the Imperium during the time of the Emperor. But after his ascension to the Golden Throne...
Dude, this guy just fucking time travel from, like, England in 1283. Why does he fucking speak like this? Why does he sound like he fucking got teleported here from the Warhammer verse? Maybe that's why he doesn't think it's fascist, because he came from... It's so fucking stupid. Like, claiming CEOs solely do everything. Exactly. The CEO has ultimate authority. Just because he has people under him who he tells what to do and they tell other people what to do doesn't make it democratic. That's a fucking great example. Just because you have a CEO, that CEO is not beholden to anything. Maybe the board of directors or whatever the fuck you call it, but like, the CEO has control. Like, just because there are people below them doesn't mean it's not... What? Like, because they're not handing out orders in the battlefield, it's not a dictator? What the fuck is that logic? This is almost worse than Omaha.
Indeed, even the High Lord's power stems from the Emperor. They are the ones who interpret his will, the will of the deity. If that makes them fascist dictators, then the Catholic Pope...
So, they get their orders from the Emperor. If and that is true, that would still make it a dictatorship, because that means the Emperor is handing out all of the rules. That's not very democratic. That's called fascism. And the Pope, I don't know if you know this, but the Pope is not in charge of any democratic parties or political parties or government. That is a fucking stupid argument. That's like saying I am a fascist dictator of my own house because I'll tell my fiance and my 2-year-old daughter what to do. That's not how it fucking works. I'm not the fucking leader of a political party or the ruling government.
Kind of sounds pretty fascist to me.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a fucking stupid comparison. Like, why are you not comparing it to other political parties? Because that's not... Because you know what happens when a government is ruled by one person telling everyone else what to do?
Nazis.
It's called fascism or a dictatorship. There is no voting system for the Pope. It's an inward system. I mean, yeah, like the process by which they pick a Pope is not democratic, but the Pope is also not a political leader of any kind. He's just a dude. So no, it's not a political office. So there's no, like, it's not.
But you're not looking. That's not. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not looking at it at face value. I'm looking like in terms of. I mean, the Pope.
In the structure
religion.
of it, yeah, it's like
In the structure of it, he's a huge
but like
political figure.
the context.
The
context of that structure is also very important.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying, like in the context of like worldwide political systems, I would say the Pope is pretty big in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think the Pope
it's
has a whole lot of power politically. Has power. Maybe if we're talking like a couple hundred years ago when you had like the Crusades and stuff, sure, yeah. The Pope was like definitely a dictator type figure then. Now he doesn't control anything. Like he controls the church, but the church doesn't control anything. So it's a moot point. It's a bad comparison because the context of how they operate is not the same.
And speaking of Big E himself, he is not a dictator either.
Okay.
Simply
what?
because he is unable to be. He can
No, I want to finish his logic here.
not communicate or guide the Imperium in any direct fashion, if at all. The only possible means of communication would be
Okay,
through visions or prophecies.
So
okay.
you're
So he's kind of right in the sense that he's come from a dictator to a religious thing,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
But hold on,
You
hold
know
on,
what I
hold
mean?
on, hold on.
Yeah.
His point about the high rulers of Terra not being a is God therefore theocracy. Trust me, bro. His entire point about the high rulers of Terra not being a dictatorship was because
Yeah.
they were reporting to the God Emperor and they were communicating with him, and there comes their power. And in the next breath, he says the Emperor himself is not a dictator because he cannot communicate with them. So
See,
do
he's
they get orders from
see
him or do they not?
see
I'll level with
he's
you. He's not a dictator because he's on the throne and he's like dead or
yeah.
whatever. Sure.
Yeah, no.
But you
I'm gonna
can't say
agree
when
that
he was
he's not a dictator on
alive.
that. Yeah, no, but I'm saying that when he was alive, he's a dictator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's more of like
you know what I mean? Right.
they pray to him now.
Religious. Yeah, that's what I was saying, right? Is that he's more become like a religious figure, right?
Yeah.
Over and then I think and then the board table is still a dictatorship, but it's like a dictatorship, but they pray to something. You know
It's
what I
a
mean? Like he's
oligarchical
like
like dictatorship
okay,
where they say God has
okay,
given us
like
these instructions and then they just
yeah,
follow them to their
yeah.
own will.
Like if I become a dictator, right? And but I pray to God, does that mean that God's the real dictator?
Yeah.
You know? Like it just it doesn't there's no logic there at all. Yeah. I
And
don't
since they are
understand.
even when the Emperor was around in person, he was quite the strange dictator,
Okay.
quotation marks, as he left most of the day-to-day running of the Imperium to the administratum and the senator.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little loose on my history. I don't feel like that's a weird dictator. I feel like Hitler didn't make I don't know I'm using Hitler, but I feel like he didn't make every tiny fucking decision. You
So
know what I mean?
if we look
Right?
at the day-to-day
Like,
runnings of Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia
yeah,
or North Korea,
yeah,
do you think Kim Jong
yeah.
Un is going down
No,
to each and every one of his
no,
lieutenants and being like, "Hey,
no,
you need to go on guard duty at this time. You need to do training at this
no,
time," or do you think he has
no.
people handling the day-to-day stuff? That is such a
Well,
fucking
he is.
retarded argument.
That is
That is
such a stupid fucking argument. That doesn't make it that
such.
is just what a dictator does. Yeah, like Hitler didn't sit around all day answering fucking phones. Yeah, like every 5 seconds. Like, yes, please, replace the water. Yeah, or like, you know what I mean? Like being a dictator means that you rule over everybody, right? There's no
It means you have
council to help you
absolutely
make decisions.
authority, and you do not
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
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 There-
right. But that doesn't
you're not
mean that every
accountable to anyone.
decision, like you can set people up, yeah, to help you make those decisions under policies that you've created, so that way you don't have to sit back and do fuck all. Yeah, this is the most stupid fucking argument I've ever heard.
Dumb as shit. The CEO doesn't do literally everyone's job. Yeah, exactly. Like Hitler didn't like command how
Yeah,
they built tanks. He said,
yeah,
you're good at building tanks. Build me some tanks." And
yeah.
then that guy went off and did his
He didn't.
thing.
He
Being a
didn't
dictator
build
doesn't
like
mean you
he
dictate
didn't.
everything to everyone. It
Hitler
means
didn't
you're
come
in
around.
charge and nobody can question you.
Hitler didn't come around and build every concentration camp with his bare fucking hands.
Yeah, he
Like
didn't like personally
he,
oversee everything. He wasn't there. He didn't like.
yeah.
He wasn't there to like break ground and cut the ribbon. Like,
Could you imagine that photo though? Just Hitler with a big pair of scissors in front of Auschwitz.
That's fucking insane.
Like he's opening up a ball.
Oh my god. The times he makes things personal with Lorgar. Oh, yeah, exactly.
For a dictator, he sure was liberal with handing out the reins of power, wasn't he? I mean,
Oh, stop
But
it.
he still had
Stop it.
absolute
But
power.
he still
You
had it. He
think
still
because
had
he
it.
handed out,
Oh,
do you think
yeah,
at any time he couldn't have just come in and taken over the Crusades, which he did do a few
yeah,
times?
yeah.
Like,
That's
what the
the
fuck is his
point.
point?
Well, no,
He
he didn't.
handed
He
over the
didn't. He
power.
didn't
So
get
what?
up.
Now, if he
He
goes to Horus and
didn't.
he says, "Hey, I'm taking over this crusade," Horus is just going to be like, "No, you gave me the power. Fuck you." Like, that's not how
No,
that
no, no.
works.
He didn't give up the reins. What he did was he tied the reins to the person below him and gave them a new
Yes,
set of reins. Like he could still pull them back as he felt fucking necessary.
military. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just a military.
It,
Yeah, that's just that's just what that
yeah.
is. When has a dictator in history ever given out power? This also, like, the whole point of this assumes that, like, say, like, when Hitler had generals or people below him, that he gave them the, how did we go from shit Gears content to Nazi research? Because this guy is saying that Warhammer, which is making fun of fascist regimes, is not fascist because they're not doing everything that the Nazis did bar for bar. Even though they are,
Yeah.
he's just lying. He's just lying.
He's just making stuff up as he goes. It's fucking
W
insane.
take? Yeah. Actually, hold on. We're still in Baldur's Gate 3. I'm so sorry, Baldur's Gate fans. Uh, change to just chatting. That'd be a weird one to come into. That's such a fucking
They
stupid
can't
take.
be. They can't be fascists because they have generals. Oh, shut the fuck up.
What the fuck are you talking about? Are all commentary channel Shadow's voice? This guy has a voice that is worse than Shadow's. Somehow. He
Yeah.
did it. He fucking did it. I cannot stand Shadow's voice because he's just, like, speaking in, like, the most monotone way. Like, the most basic, like, 2016 YouTuber monotone. Like, hey guys, Shadow's here. Welcome back to another. And he just reads directly off the Wikipedia script, which is annoying in its own right. And it's whatever. For, like, a news thing, if you're just going to play it and listen to it, sure, whatever. This guy sounds like he just fucking came from Europe in the middle of the fucking Great Plagues. I don't know why the fuck he sounds like this, but it makes listening to him worse because he has, like, the British accent of British people that think they're better than you because they're British. They're like, well,
And
actually,
he's
our
explaining.
food is
And he's,
exquisite. Dude, you took over the entire world for spices and you haven't learned how to use a single one of them. Shut the fuck up. Like, it's fucking insane. But this guy is British. That is true. This guy is actually British. Shadow's just, I mistake Aussies and British people. He doesn't use any of the slang
that's
or talk about
rude.
spiders.
What? What a.
need to
Hold on.
reference any of this if
Oh,
you...
no, no, no. Pause it. Pause it.
What?
Spiders?
Yeah,
What?
in Australia.
Oh. Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were about British
there you
people
go.
and spiders. I was like, what the
No,
fuck?
no, 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 no. No, that would be too much.
Oi, bruv, there's a creepy crawly climbing up me window. What's the difference between the two
Authoritarianism.
ones, do you think?
Enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience at the expense of personal freedom. So
Okay,
authoritarianism
so,
is a foundational
like,
piece of fascism. So
yeah,
it
I
is
was gonna
one
say that goes
checkbox in a long
in
list.
hand with fascism.
So not all authoritarianism is fascist, but all fascism is
It's
authoritarianism,
authoritarian. Yeah,
which, as we covered on the checkboxes that the Imperium has, they check every single
that's
box
one. Yeah,
flawlessly.
this guy, like, it's even worse that it's almost an hour long. So it's an
Yeah.
hour long of shitty
The worst
takes,
part,
right?
the worst part is we're 5 minutes in, and a part of me now at this point wants to watch the whole video.
Yeah, I'm getting there too. Like we're
Italian
5 minutes
fascist
into
isn't
the
the same as Nazism. That's true. There are different forms of fascism.
yeah,
The Warhammer one
yeah,
is very
totally.
much Nazism. Like, there's a big focus
Yeah,
specifically
yeah,
on, like, they are explicitly xenophobic. Like, that is a big thing
yeah,
about them.
yeah.
Like, because the writer said so is
I hate that.
something to
That
really
is
take in. Like, people say all the time that Starship Troopers is not fascist because the original writer said, like, it wasn't, and just because the movie director says it is doesn't mean that it is. When it is, And especially because the
Yeah.
movie director intended to make them fascist. Like one of the characters, Neil Patrick Harris, is dressed like a Nazi. Like the whole point of him doing that is to sell it home.
That's like could you imagine like Eminem drops a song and goes, "It's not rap."
If he came out and he
Yeah,
was like
like
Rap
just 'cause-
God, Rap God is a blues country song. Everyone would be, you're fucking
yeah,
stupid. Like, what are you
yeah,
talking about?
right. Yeah. It's
Just
just
because
people are
writer says something or a critic says something does not make it true or false. Starship Troopers, the book, very social Darwinist. It is very right wing in a lot of like ways. Like it pushes that. The whole point of the movie is that the movie doesn't do that. The movie makes a satire out of it. And the
yeah.
writer of the book would have fucking hated the movie.
But let us move on with the first and easiest one, shall we? The
Uh-huh.
architectural style and appearance of the Imperium. The skulls reminiscent of the Totenkopf, the Aquila reminiscent of the Reichsadler, and the dark, oppressive Gothic style of imperial buildings. Not to mention, of course, the deathcore of Krieg. These things are perceived by many as
I'll agree
What
with
the
you
fuck is
here.
happening?
Just because you wear a skull, and just because you use the eagle, or you have Gothic buildings, or you have the Death Court of Krieg.
Yeah.
I don't have my Kriegsmen. They're way over there on the table. They look like
Yeah.
World War One soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Just because you have stuff that is very much inspired by the looks of like the Nazis and fascist regimes doesn't inherently make that group fascist. I agree with you.
How
But
how
you have to think, if the artists are drawing inspirations from fascist, totalitarian, authoritarian governments, there's probably a reason for that. They're not just picking all of the most famous symbols the Nazis used because they looked the coolest. They're probably picking
it
the most often used symbols by the Nazis to drive home the fact that the Imperium
well
is a
it
satire
yeah,
look at
it's
fascism
it's
most oftenly displayed by the
it's
Nazis.
like
This shouldn't be
it's
hard
like
to
the
get.
Empire it's like you're the Empire of the New Order, right?
Russians
Yeah,
using the
it's
said
the
military for a long time. Yeah.
yeah, it's like but it's like the Empire or you know what I mean, like the New Order, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um
Like the
it's just
stormtroopers in Star
very
Wars. They are called
yeah,
stormtroopers specifically to be an allegory for
yeah,
Nazis.
basically that reason. And but even like the logos and stuff and how they do it, like it's all
Yeah.
very
And
similar.
this is with
How
every
fucking
single game that takes, like, all of them use skulls. And there's a very good reason for that. Gears of War
yeah,
uses
how
skulls. Guess why?
or
They're an
even
authoritarian regime.
or
Helldivers use
even like
skulls because they're an authoritarian regime. They're taking those
or,
creative aspects and applying them to their fictional universes because it drives home the point.
so my point of the smiley face thing that I was pointing out, right, is that a
Okay.
smiley face means something innocent enough, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it doesn't, but let's say that I become a genocidal like warlord, right? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
smack a smiley face on everything, it doesn't matter now
You're going
whether
to
what the smiley
associate
face
that with,
represented.
yeah.
You've now associated this symbol with
That's,
something horrific,
yeah.
right?
Jail,
Yeah,
that's exactly what we were saying. That's a good rephrase.
yeah,
Even if people know the fact that it wasn't a Nazi symbol to begin with, they're not going to like the symbol
yeah,
now because of its new history. And that's really
yeah.
important
It
here.
doesn't.
You could say the
Yeah,
Prussians came up with it in the 1800s. Okay, I see where you're going for that now. Even though the Prussians used it in the 1800s, the Nazis using it in the 40s had a much bigger
yeah,
cultural impact on the
yeah,
fucking world because they killed 6 million.
yeah,
That's just the Jews. They killed like
yeah,
15 million something fucking people. You know?
yeah.
Like,
Like,
it takes on a new
that
meaning
like
just because they used it, whatever
yeah,
the fuck. You
yeah,
also have Roman soldiers doing like the hand salute in the fucking, before Jesus was dead. That doesn't mean that like now
yeah.
that the not like it isn't important
It
that the
doesn't
Nazis
change
also
the
did it.
fact. Yeah, it sucks and it sucks. It's how
He's
things
like
work. But when you do something bad enough and you associate certain things with
pirates.
it,
Doesn't change the fact that it's a symbol of hate. Yeah. And that's where the
yeah,
context matters. Like a soldier that is authoritarian wearing a skull So what is the context of that? Do you think the artist just decided to do it, or do you think they're taking inspiration from the Nazis? Versus a pirate with
Yeah,
a flag that has the Jolly Roger on it, do you think they're just a pirate? The context of those two
yeah.
things is very different. I had
I
something else I
also
totally
feel
forgot what I was
like
going to say.
though, I just feel like though, like when you talk about skulls, like I feel like yeah, skulls are a weird symbol because I think in a lot of kids they're mostly used for bad things, right? But it's how you
Yeah.
represent the skull, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah,
You
it's
know what I
exactly
mean,
like the
right?
context in which it's used. They use it almost
Yeah,
identically
right.
in Warhammer as like the Nazis used it, which
Yeah,
is a choice
but
decision to make them tied
which
in.
but I feel like the skull is different than a swastika because a swastika like it doesn't matter what context you use it in, it's a fucking
Well,
swastika.
yeah. Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
true.
mean?
The swastika doesn't need
The
context. The skull
or
can
like
be different in
or
different
like
contexts.
yeah, right? Like a Jolly Roger or like the Punisher, right? Or
Yeah.
Warhammer.
A
You know
skull
what I
doesn't
mean?
inherently
Right?
mean Nazi in the same way a swastika does.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah,
skull on a
right.
dude who's dressed like a Nazi probably means
Yes.
Nazi.
Yes, right?
Like,
Yeah. You know what I mean? Or
yeah.
yeah, like a skull on a military jacket in my mind, and when I see that, usually means some sort of authoritarian or like dictatorship kind of shit. Yeah. He's
Whereas, like, the
twisting it.
Prussians used it in 1800s. It's like, well, that's completely disregarding the context of how it's used within Warhammer 40k. Like, they're not just using the skulls or that have been used for 300 years. They're using the skulls in correlation with ideas and symbols the Nazi used. Like, the Prussians may have used skulls, but did the Prussians also use the eagle and everything else in tandem with that? No.
Yeah,
So,
no, and I agree with you there, Jail. Like I
or
agree with
just
this
doing
point
everyone
there
else uses
that
it? Yeah.
yeah, but I just I always hate this skull argument. I feel like I've had this argument once before with somebody. Well, everybody else uses skulls, but I'm like, but that's in different context, right? Like if I
Yeah.
see a hazard symbol with a skull in the center of it, I know that shit's gonna kill me. I don't think the chemical's like fucking racist. You know what I
It's
mean?
like an
Right?
anti-Jewish
Like
chemical.
yeah, like I don't pick up this bottle of like cleaning
That would have
supplies and
made
I'm
him
like,
so
oh shit.
happy. What do you mean?
Yeah,
Anti-Jewish chemical? Like he would have gotten
anti-Jewish
chubbed.
chemical. Yeah. But no, like it's you have to have a brain, which is crazy coming from me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You
like
have to like you if you're
you have to think.
purposely ripping it apart from its context, you are doing a disservice
Yeah.
to your own argument and
Like
you're specifically trying to make it sound like it's not what it is.
yeah. I mean the
Five
Punisher,
hours, five
yeah,
and a half hours.
like the
Punisher is such an
Punisher
example.
wears
Yeah. The skull
yeah,
is
he wears
not
a
it's not
skull
he's not a fucking Nazi,
yeah.
but
He's not a Nazi, yeah.
but
Right?
he's also
Like
not dressed like a
I
Nazi. If you put the Punisher in a Nazi
yeah.
costume and then gave him the skull, he would probably be more like a Nazi. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like you said. It's all about context. Like I don't watch Pirates of the Caribbean and see the Jolly Rogers, and I go, "Fuck, it's pirate Nazis." Shit,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like, like it's people like this that I'm gonna get really mean for a second. Are you ready, Kyle?
go for it.
Because I'm tired and I don't give a shit. It's people like this that are so fucking stupid. Yeah, that
Agreed.
are the reasons that, like, oh my God, we can't have a skull on something or you're racist. Like, or these are the same people that are so fucking stupid that, like, will defend, like, borderline awful shit. Like, I'm sure this is a guy that sat there and was like, well, Hitler actually never had a fair trial, so how do we know he was guilty? You know what I mean? Like, it
This is
is
the kind of
the
guy that's really mad that Labour
dumbest
just won
shit.
in the UK.
Yeah, like, this is the kind of guy that wants to put kids back in the chimney. You
Yeah,
know, and well,
it's so dumb.
that's democracy. He like
We're just gonna hold on. I'm gonna
any
put this up
yeah
on 1.5, and then we're gonna keep going or
any
1.25.
any point that he makes now is
He's not
just
made
going
a
to be
single
fucking
good point. Maybe the Emperor being
no
dead one, sure, but that's like a point against his own hypothetical. So
yeah.
It's the Australians,
The
the
only good point he's
Americans,
making is once
so
proved
on
him
and
wrong.
so on.
there's pictures of him saying, "Well, we have a Black History Month, but if Black people can't find the history itself, what's the point?" What? Is he saying Black people shouldn't have a Black History Month because they can't? What? Because they can't
That's
find their own
insane.
history because they were stolen
Uh,
from their homes and used as slaves?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's literally
That's
insane.
crazy.
Architecture.
In 1916, so it is a thin link at best. Your architecture does not suggest much, if anything, about a nation's political leanings. But through media and imagery, many draw
Yes, the architecture of
Yes,
a
it does.
nation doesn't determine its thing. The context of
Yes,
which this is applied is the meaning.
yes.
But he's
But
ignoring all the context.
I think in the real world, yeah, in the real
Yeah.
life, where things make sense, where we don't
So
live in fucking dumbass land, right?
yeah.
Architecture doesn't
So
have anything
like
to do it. But I think if
if
we're
you
looking at
built
fiction and stuff like that, I think
it's
there's
all
fundamentally
yeah.
nothing wrong
In
with that.
fiction it's also
There's
all
definitely
very specifically
yeah,
chosen artistic
yeah,
points.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
in the
So
real world,
sorry.
if you built a building that looked like the Notre Dame in New York, nobody would give a shit.
Yeah, not a single
Nobody would
fucking
care.
person.
It would just be a building that
Oh,
looks
Peyton,
gothic.
Peyton, thank you for the octopus in chat. That was pretty
If
awesome.
you But if you built a building that looked like the
Sorry,
Notre Dame,
retro
that
emo.
was covered in eagles that are, reminiscent of the ones used by the Nazis, and covered, and all of the people working there wear uniforms that look like the Nazis, wearing skulls that the Nazis used, you'd start to ask questions. Yes, these things on their
Yeah,
own are not bad, but the context and the all of them
yeah.
is Greco-Roman is
It's
everywhere in
insane.
Western culture. That's true. That doesn't mean like the White House isn't fucking a Nazi house because it's Greco-Roman in origin. Like, but
It's a Nazi house because it's the White House.
well, yeah, because we had Trump in for. uh, we've had a few people who could
Uh,
qualify. Let's just say that. But yeah,
Obama.
connection
yeah,
between these things and Nazi Germany.
See, he's trying to take real life, not stupid land logic and apply that to fiction logic, right?
yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
But
He's
these are all
trying,
very
see, real,
intentional artistic
see,
choices.
yeah, I was gonna say, his real life, not stupid land. Um, you know, things are different,
But
right? Yeah,
we are in
there's
stupid
not
land where
parallels
each
to
of
a lot
these
of
are
fiction.
specific choices made to represent a
Yes,
specific type of
yes,
people.
exactly. We are in stupid land, right? Yeah, and yeah, he's just fuck, man. This is good times.
It's
Normal
just
and
stupid.
understandable within the state. Sectors, subsectors, and even individual planets and systems all have extensive self-rule, and in the vast majority of cases, the only
Have extensive self-rule. You know what happens if any of those planets steps out of line? They
Bang,
get
it's
blown the
gone.
fuck
They're
up.
gone.
Yeah.
They're gone.
They
You're done. You're done.
yeah,
You're
they
done,
have
pal. You're done.
self-rule as in they can like come up with their own reason ways of doing things. But
Yeah,
they
it's
have
like
a
it's
guideline to
it's
stay
like
within.
it's
It's
like
like
when you it's like when you're a kid at home, you're like 13, like you have self-guidance to shit when you want and to like do stuff in your room, which you can't
yeah.
like go
Well, it's
microwave
like
your fucking hamster, you
if the
know?
teacher tells
Like
you do math and get to 15, like you could add 3 plus 8 plus 4, or you could do
yeah,
30 divided by 2, or you could do 5 plus 5 plus 5, or you could do 14
or
plus
you
1. Yeah,
or
you
you
could
could
do
just
it, but
write
you
or you
still
could
have to
just
add to
write
15.
15. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're given a box to work in, but you step outside that box and you get
and
like
you
ass
get
fucked into
exterminated.
oblivion.
You get blown up. Yeah,
Yeah,
like they
whatever he
shoot
said.
people that are turning around on the front lines. Like what
Dude,
the fuck are you
dude,
talking about?
they literally kill people that have like a zero point 0.0 repeating like 1% chance of becoming a
They
demon.
they kill
Yeah,
people for being
like
in the wrong place at the wrong time.
yeah, yeah. Unless they
Human
have a
lives are
custody with them.
worth less than the guns that they hold.
Yeah, like
Yeah, they
which is
have
why
a
Destiny
tiny amount
wins.
of autonomy.
Which
If
is
by
which
autonomy
is
you
why
mean they
Destiny.
can come up with which way they want to
Yeah,
kill the enemies dictated by the state.
yeah. I truly believe the most autonomy they have is when they want to shit,
They
and
shoot and
maybe
murder
not even
mutant
that.
human beings just by existing. Yeah. And if they don't shoot them, like the Ogryn, they just put them to work. Like they take advantage
Yeah,
of them. Obviously. It's such a stupid point.
like
You
the
are
chain of command
making
goes
the
Imperium
bar
has it.
for fascism. He's making the bar for fascism so much higher than it needs to be so that he can
Yeah,
claim that the Imperium isn't fascist, even though it checks
yeah,
every single rung on the bar. It's just
Which is kind of
stupid.
weird because it feels like
He's going
he's
really far out of his way to pretend that it isn't fascism and to protect the idea of fascism. Just
see,
saying,
there's
it's
a
a little
difference
weird.
between there's a difference between rage bait and this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Imperium,
guess he got
bound
us
by
to watch
alliances and
it.
treaties.
Dude, it's just AI. I
Because, like,
agree.
one
It's
of
just
those High Lords of Terra
Hitler was AI.
belongs to Mars. Like, the AdMech have their own High Lord of Terra. Like, they're still a part of this fascist system. Just because the larger part has a little bit more autonomy doesn't mean it's less fascist. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
It's stupid.
but as a fascist, they've earned the Adeptus Mechanicus have earned that autonomy, right? Yeah, you know what I
Yeah, a
mean.
little
Like
bit.
the autonomy isn't given freely; it's given because they're useful. You know
But
what I
they also
mean,
have given
right?
their entire will to the God Emperor. So, like, they're still beholden to this fascist,
Yeah,
like, the top
they're
of the fascist
yeah,
regime.
exactly.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean,
Just
right?
because they
Like,
don't
but they
agree
still,
with the lower
yeah,
rungs of the fascist regime doesn't mean they're not still part of it,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah. But that's what I mean by that they've been given.
Said with
You
the
know what I mean,
USSR, there
right?
is no factionalism, doesn't change that they're equally as controlling as the Nazi system. Yeah. Just because there's
Yeah.
infighting on the lower rungs doesn't mean you don't still have that one domineering
Uh,
dictator.
they had to put posters up about not eating children. Deems
They can do it however
acceptable.
they wish within
Yeah,
those acceptable rounds, but
yeah.
as long as it's acceptable is a pretty fucking important part.
And
We also have
and if even if they're paying their way out, like they're not paying for freedom of it, they're paying for wiggle room. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Adeptus Mechanicus. It's what's acceptable, but because they give so much to the Imperium, they get a little more wiggle room.
If
Yeah.
the
You know
Adeptus
what I mean?
Mechanicus wasn't as tied into the system and they didn't have a High Lord of Terra, they
Yeah.
would have been dominated by the rest of the
Oh,
Imperium already. Like
oh, for sure,
they're
right?
only
But
at odds because they do have that little bit of political power. If they didn't have that, they would
yeah,
be just as
that
subjugated to the rules as
yeah,
everyone else.
but that's what I mean, though, right? It gives them wiggle room, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Hitler. It's like if Hitler had a best friend that was really fucking
Well, it's
Jewish,
like
but he's managed to wiggle his way in there, so now he's got a little more space. You
well,
know?
it's like Italy, you know, Italy didn't follow everything that like Nazi Germany did to the T, but they still
Yeah,
wrangled up Jewish people and sent them up north because they were technically on the same side, you know?
yeah, yep.
It's just stupid. Gilman killed the High Lords and
Okay,
took total power. Yeah,
welcome,
exactly. So also the whole thing
welcome.
about spreading out power, it's not done to make it less autocratic. It's done to make it so that no one underneath the emperor has enough rule to try and overthrow him. It's not
Welcome
done
to
for the good
running
of
a.
the people or for the autonomy of the people. It's done
Okay,
literally so that
okay,
nobody could try to overthrow him in the way that Horus did.
okay. Okay, so the point of running a business when you keep 51% of the shares because you own the business and you split it up between 10 people
Yeah.
is that way that nobody has the money or the shares to do anything and you still own majority, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can kick them off and take those shares back as you please for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The point of because if he just goes 50-50 with Horus, right? Yeah, the God Emperor, yeah,
Yeah.
then now he's got somebody that can rival him in power, right?
Yeah.
But if he splits it up to 20 different fucking people, right? When that's still his power, he can still grab that power and yank it back as he
He's still
fucking
at the
feels,
top of that. Yeah.
right? Yeah. Like it's like when we talked about the
It's
reigns.
it's
Like he's
it's
attached
spread
his reigns to
out
other people.
to
Yeah.
make the people under the emperor less powerful, not to make the emperor himself less powerful. And by extension,
Yeah.
Gilliman and the High Lords. Like that's just not
Yeah.
how that works. You're just being intentionally dishonest.
Sons to rule the
See
galaxy in
the
his stead
yeah,
in various
My
positions
neck is
and
starting to
various
hurt.
specialities. And already during
mine
the
too.
Imperium's expansionist phase, it gave control of newly conquered planets to planetary governors, who then had extensive self-rule.
Who did the governors answer to? Quick
So
question.
so I have no idea, but so can I
They
explain
answer to the
something?
people
Or
above. Because that's how a chain of command works. What?
right, yeah. So also splitting out your power like that is a good thing because the more people you have that have little power is the less likely that a really big bad thing can happen, right?
Well,
You
exactly.
know what I
He
mean?
did it
Just
so that
little
nobody
bad
could
things.
overthrow him like Horus
Yeah,
did.
well that's yeah, right. Like
Or
a bunch of
attempt.
little bad things, bunch of little
Because
bad
if
things can happen with a lot of people, but if
one
you give it to three people, all it takes is maybe two of them to try to fuck you up. you
Yeah,
know?
because if you
Like,
try to fight one chapter of 1,000 Space Marines, that's a weekend. The Emperor could snap his fingers and it's done with. Now you try to
yeah,
fight 9 legions of 100,000 Space Marines each. Well, now you have a bigger issue in your hands. And that's exactly
yeah,
like the whole point of distributing that power was not to make it more autonomous or to give the people more power. It's done so that the Emperor can't be thwarted by his own machine. It's
yeah,
literally
yeah,
it's like putting an airbag in your car. Like you're not putting an airbag in your car to make your car like whatever. You're
safer.
making it so it's safer for you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you're protecting yourself, not the car.
Yeah. Or it's like getting a dash cam. You don't get a dash cam so that you could see somebody else get in a wreck and give them the footage. You get a dash cam so that if you're ever in a wreck, you can use that to your own accord, and then you also
Yeah,
have the slightly positive byproduct of also being able to give out footage to other people. It's a
yeah,
byproduct of the thing, not the function or intention of the thing. Problem with
yeah,
dictatorships is once the figurehead dies or retires, there's a high chance the next one in line is going to make things worse and create a power vacuum. Yeah, which is exactly what the High Lord's Terra is. It's constantly a power vacuum between them and the Inquisitors and the
yeah,
Admech and stuff,
yeah.
and Gilliman.
And power vacuums are one of the worst things to happen and stuff like that.
Yeah. The only reason Gilliman gets away with it is because he is fucking God's son. Like it's really hard. Like imagine like Jesus came back today and he was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna let me rule or like come
I am
on."
going to kill everybody here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Threat of
By
pain.
the way, the xenophobia is something that is core to fascism, and the whole thing about aliens
yeah,
coming on every sides. Many of the aliens would happily work with humanity if they weren't so xenophobic. The Eldar would. The Eldar
I
have in the past. The Tau would. The Tau have on some occasions, even though they disagree politically.
can I
The
can I
Leagues of
give my
Votan
can
do.
I
They actively do help.
can I
Huh.
give my one actual take here that isn't telling him he's wrong? Yeah, I've been actually
Huh.
thinking a lot about this. I think the only reason why the Imperium of Man has survived for so long is because they're a fascist thing. Yeah,
Exactly. Like their fascism is how they've survived because they are so
yeah. I
dogmatic
mean,
on it.
one man calling the shots means that there's no debating, no this, no that. It's just
Yeah,
it's
it gets
wartime.
stuff
It's
done.
defense. It gets
Yeah.
stuff done, right? If it was like a republic, they'd get mowed down by orcs or like the Tyranids or really like chaos even, right?
Which is what a
Yeah.
lot of it was before Gilliman came in and took over again, where like a lot of it was wrapped up in bureaucracy until Gilliman came in, killed half of them, instilled his own guys, and then made it more efficient. Like, I love Gilliman, but
This is
he's a
so
horrible person in many other ways. That sums up every single character in 40K. That's kind of like
yeah,
their thing.
that's
But
pretty
also
okay.
this argument that like
Yeah.
they have too many people for it to be democratic. I mean, could you just do that, but also just have representatives that vote for it? Like, you don't need every 8 trillion people on one planet to vote if you have like
Yeah.
a planetary governor, as you say. Like, I'm sure that
Yeah.
would be a lot easier to manage, you know?
Yeah. I don't even know. Like, what's the point in arguing that it's not fascist? Like, I haven't figured it
Process
is
can
going
already
to.
take weeks slower they would turn representatives who all
I
know
don't.
their say.
Just to be right, I
They
guess.
change
I don't
any
know.
kind
Yeah,
of
that's a good point.
consensus vote.
Why is he so intent on proving that it isn't fascist? Outside of he's trying to make fascism
Like,
seem less
like,
bad, or he's trying to make the thing
like,
I would think of is that he is believes in some fascist ideas of his own, and he believes that the way that the Imperium does stuff is good in the way of their social Darwinism and the way they take things.
yeah.
So he's
See,
trying to defend the Imperium as not fascism because he believes in these fascist ideas and believes
see,
in unironically in the Imperium sauce, but he doesn't want to admit to it. So he's coming up with excuses for it to not be fascist.
see, because my thought originally, I thought this was a bit, right? Because he
No.
jumped so much into those 42 different definitions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I assumed that it was just a bit, realized it was. Like, but no, I think I'm sitting here questioning, like, why is he trying so fucking hard? Yeah, like, I'll be honest with you,
Yeah.
Kyle, this video shouldn't be an hour long.
It shouldn't have
Yeah,
been like 10 minutes long. We proved it wrong in the first 10 seconds. Like, it's just not right.
he's made all of his points in 10 minutes. Like, there's nothing else to make. Yeah,
You might not be far off. Okay, yeah. See, that's the only thing I can think of is that he's trying to retroactively absolve himself which is, what world are you living in? This has gone on long
Yeah.
enough. I might actually just cut this up and make this a full ass video instead of just making it into TikTok shorts.
Dude, honestly, might as well. The first ever video that I'll be in that isn't behind a fucking paywall.
You're
Yeah.
damn right.
If you're gonna paywall it in a week.
That's a good idea. I might do that. Okay, 2 times speed. Let's get through this.
Yeah, let's get through this and we'll do the final closing.
And the unjust peace was also used by both nations as justification for many of their expansionist policies, which were in turn firmly grounded in the three principles, all within the state led to programs of repatriation in Germany. Nothing outside the state led to demands for annexation of territory that the parties felt belonged to them after the...
He's drawing very specific parallels between the Imperium of Mankind and the Nazi Party and the Fascist
Why
Italian
though?
Party. But they
Why
aren't
though?
connected in whatsoever.
Hold on.
1,000-word
Because
page
from
can
what
be
I
ruined
under-
through 6 simple words. Yeah.
because
So he's
I've
openly
always been under-
comparing
I've
the
al-
Imperium to Nazi Germany, but trust me, bro, it's not the same.
see, my confusion with him, right? And maybe I don't know what Warhammer lore was before they became the Imperium of Man, right? And I'm really tired, so
It was a
this
bunch
isn't
of like
probably,
feudal
cool.
states that were kind of all over the place. It was the
Yeah,
emperor who came
feudal
in and he
states.
literally fought unification
those
wars
are-
to annex everything under his
but-
control.
But those are different because if I remember correctly, the First World War kind of left Germany broken. Yeah, which then
It left them like
created a way-
destitute because they had to pay back a lot of
Yeah.
stuff and their economy
Yeah,
crashed. And then
which-
World War II, they were
which-
split west and east.
Well, no, hold on, I'm not done. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. And that's kind of what left the foundation for Hitler to get into power. Right?
Yeah.
That and
They were
amongst other
destitute.
things, right?
And he was able to use
yeah,
that.
yeah. He was able to use that. He got into power. He used all this stuff, right? But that
It's
just, I
the-
don't see where these parallels are coming from, right? Like I just don't.
It's the
you know?
same kind of rhetoric you see in, like, say, like you look at Donald Trump today, where he's like, crime is on the rise, everything's worse than it has been in the recent times, and you can say that all day long, but if you look at the statistics, I think in the last 30 years, crime in the United States is down like 49%. Like,
Yeah,
everything is
I think
objectively
that's all
getting
about-
better, but they say it's the worst time ever. Everything's getting bad. It's getting worse. Vote for me. We'll fix it all. That's exactly the same kind of shit Hitler did. I'm not comparing Trump to Hitler, but I'm saying these ideologies that these kinds of people use. He's definitely using
think-
the same
I'm
playbook
not-
as far as getting elected goes. But like,
I'm not defending Hitler here. Okay, just want
Okay.
to point that out. But I do think Hitler used the truth of Germany's suffering, where Trump's just lying. Yeah.
well, yeah, but it's the same
know what I mean?
playbook as far as like convince
Yeah.
them that like
But,
it's.
yeah. Oh no, for
Well,
sure.
it's the same playbook as like convince them that it's bad and it's these people's fault. For Hitler, it was the Jews.
Yeah,
For
no,
Trump
for
and a lot
sure.
of Republicans, it's like
Oh, for sure.
immigrants, right?
But
But it's the
Hitler's
same
was a lot
playbook.
of other, and Hitler's was a lot of other stuff, and it was. I've read a lot of just
Well,
because I was so curious, I like how somebody like that got there.
Have you read Mein Kampf,
Right.
Ben?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. But like, I
Damn.
just no. It's not about. I'm not interested in Hitler's philosophy. I'm more interested, on how people let him get that far, right? Like truly get that far.
Well,
Like,
it's like
well, no,
boiling
I'm-
frog.
Yeah, I think the part that interests me is at what moment did it become out of
One
fuck
more
yeah, I
fascist
like this
every
guy,
year.
and at what point then did it switch between I like this guy to fuck he's gonna kill me if I say no. You know
The
what I
same
mean?
thing.
That's
Like
the part that
the
would-
year after year, the Republican Party becomes more
Yeah.
fascist, which is true. Like if you look at like the debate between like Mitch McConnell and Obama, like it's a very cordial thing. And then you like see the debate like a few week ago or whatever between Biden and Trump's like, he's gay. He's so gay.
Gay.
Some would say
He's so
the
gay.
gayest. And it's like
Some would say the
the
gayest.
facade is completely
He just-
dropped. Like they're not even trying to be
right.
respectful anymore. They're just straight up being
Yeah.
insane
Yeah.
and racist.
I don't know.
The Mexicans are coming.
just
They're
think-
stealing black jobs. They're like, what even is a
Jesus
black job, Trump? What the fuck does that mean? It's so stupid.
Similarities here to the Imperium, at least in superficial terms of an expansionist militaristic regime. The Imperium
in superficial terms, like an expansionist, xenophobic regime. Buddy, that is all that the Imperium is. They are. They're turning our children trans. Yeah, the same thing. They're turning our space marines into Tau. Like, it's the same fucking rhetoric. A
Can we get this guy on the
small,
podcast?
superficial thing that they were xenophobic expansionist empires. I don't know how to tell you this, but that is one of the core pillars of where it's derived from.
I have no idea why we're still watching
What
this.
it viewed as its birthright. Its
I want to get it over with, but
because in a universe like 40K, we're a species not just prosperity, but very
I like how his argument is that like the universe is so bad and so evil that you have to be almost a fascist in order to fight back against it. But they aren't fascist. They just have to be. They have to do everything that fascists do in order to fight back against the universe. But they're not fascist. Like, come on, guys. They have multiple leaders. They have 12 leaders.
That's literally going like we do everything that a couple does, but we're not dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're not.
We're just
dating,
friends.
but we live together. We have kids together. You know, but like
Yeah.
we're not a thing. Yeah, we're just friends. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're growing
It's
old
fucking
together, but we're just
stupid.
friends. It's fucking so silly.
whole, the Imperium will also trade with xeno-species, even enter into more or less official treaties with them. Again, they would prefer to kill them all, but sadly that is not...
He's making more comparisons between Nazis
Isn't that
and
what
the Imperium.
Warhammer? Isn't that what Warhammer does when they see like fucking Tyranids? They're
Yeah, they'll
like,
make
hey,
agreements.
they'll make agreements.
I'm doing this not because I'm a fascist. I'm doing this for the sake of humanity. That's exactly what the Nazis' ideology was. Again, though, he's making comparisons between Nazi Germany and the Imperium and saying, but they're different. They're not the same. Trust me, bro. He's continuing to do that. And it's just dishonest.
not always an option.
You know what he's
So, at least we know.
Huh?
he's trying to do? Like, you ever try to like talk somebody about like Star Wars or like Transformers, and they're
Yeah.
like, because they really like the bad guys, like the Empire, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Who can't, when you're like, oh yeah, the Empire, you like the bad guys, like, well, actually, we're not the bad guys if you look at statistically, yeah, you know what I mean, or like the Decepticons or
Yeah.
anything like that, right? That
I've had that talk with
it's
Gears of War with so many people where I'm like, the COG are not the good guys. Like, and they're like, and somebody responded to me unironically, be like, oh, would you rather be a part of the genocidal monsters? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Do you know two things? Like, two things can be
Yeah.
true at once. Like, the COG can be not the good
Yeah.
guys, and the Locust can also be not the good guys either.
Well, I
Just
think-
because I
I
say the
think
COG
there's
are the
a-
bad guys doesn't mean that
Yeah.
I think like the Locust are like fucking PG Keen, bro science.
Yeah, like there's a difference because I'll go, I like the Empire, and they're like,
yeah.
do you like the bad guys? And I'm like, yeah, I just like the aesthetic of them. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, you know, like.
But
I
when
like
you
the,
start
like, of, like,
defending, they're like,
but when,
like
but
if
when
you gave
start
this guy the Empire,
defending the
would he be
Empire-
like, they have, yeah, they do have those kind of farms, ironically. But like, do you think if we gave this guy the
Yeah.
Empire, he'd be like, well, they only enslaved the Kashyyyks because they were at war. It's they needed to do that. Like,
They only enslaved the Wookiees because they were big and strong.
yeah,
like,
because they needed an efficient workforce and they were brown. Alienate
Yeah,
themselves
but
from the stranded.
it's-
Yeah.
If it is, it's not a very good one, if I'm to be honest, as Guzgul, I mean, I don't see it myself, beyond the name, I suppose, which isn't much.
That's
other-
all. There is a planet in 40K called Britannica. There is a
What
world.
does that mean?
Fuck. It's just a British place. Like it just means Britain. There's a world called Edinburgh in 40K, which is a satire of the very real world, the city in the UK, and the world is a depressing place where it's always dark and it always rains. Like it is still very much satire. They just aren't so frontward with it anymore.
Is he gonna tell me if they're fascist or not? I'm like following this.
Leftist. Okay, so he's making this to shit on lefties that call Warhammer 40K fascist. It's like those fans who say Baird's only an asshole because it's how he copes. He's not an asshole. He just used a defense method. Yeah, he's just an asshole. He's an entitled fucking... Like, the only reason he joined the army was so that he could get his dad's inheritance money. He's an asshole.
Hitler was just mad because he didn't make it in art school. It's not his fault. He accepted 15
If they
million
accepted
people.
him, we wouldn't have had World War
If
II.
they do,
Never really
sometimes I think about that. If they just accepted him,
How do you
that
think
we
that
would
like
never have.
teacher feels?
Oh, probably like horrible. Yeah.
He's like reading the news and he's like, what have I done? Like,
What have I unleashed a monster?
Now, I will bid you all adieu. Please do let me know what you think in the comments section down below. If you agree, if you disagree, and if you disagree, then please do tell me why, because it's always interesting.
Can you just like spam the word monkey balls about 5 times? Thank you.
Until next time,
correct kinds of people. Okay. So if you disagree, I want to hear it, but I hope this finds its way into the correct kinds of people that are in my group
What
think
kinda-
tank, and we'll repeat that.
Until then, have a good day.
That was such a fucking
Ask
stupid
him
way
if he
to
wants to be in the podcast, and if he says no, that he's gay. Like how we're just starting internet beef. Yeah.
there it is. Public proof. He's not that big. What is he pulling in? 20,000 views of video. He's not getting that many comments. He'll see it. Whether or not he responds to it, that's a different thing. Done with that. Thank you very much, Jail, for joining us for this.
Yeah, Jail. All right. Jail, did you join the Discord server?
My
Make sure to join the
cheeks
Discord server.
hurt because of how fucking stupidly funny this was.
Stupid that was. Jail, make
If
sure to
Void's
join the.
blue
Well, I
is
don't know.
Jail. I have no idea.
They used a GIF of my. They used the sticker of my face.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
or the
that.
emote.
But
True.
otherwise,
Fuck his bad takes. But yeah, Jail, make sure to join the
deleted a
Discord.
good chunk of his
We
channel.
play, we play video games and talk about games, and I don't know, we do stuff, I guess. You gotta see lots of pictures of me. It's pretty hype, pretty awesome.
We do
there's
this
a lot in
every
there.
Saturday at 9 p.m. CST, and apparently that runs
Yeah.
until 4 in the morning the next day. Jesus fucking
Yeah,
Christ.
apparently, this I was expecting to be bed at like 1. Here
So
am,
was
it's
I.
3 in the
I didn't
morning.
expect to go down this rabbit hole, but I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ben, for
okay,
joining me.
you know,
Thank you, JL, for
I
sitting in
do
the what do you call it, the chat and hanging out with us.
I'll see you
this
in
is
the
going to be the
Discord.
end. We will see you. Fun and torture. Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it.
We'll see you on the next episode of the Chaos Continuum podcast.
Whenever that comes, remember to stay cool,
Whenever
have fun,
that
be
comes.
awesome. Buster
And
out.
do your shit.
Yeah. I'll figure it out, Ben. Just